What's up everybody, it's me Murdock, and today I'm here with a review for The Night House, a new psychological horror film directed by David Bruckner. The Night House follows Beth, a teacher who recently suffered a personal tragedy and lost her husband Owen to suicide. As she struggles to try to understand why her husband took his own life, she starts to experience supernatural events that start to take place in her house during the nighttime. And after these events begin to happen, she starts going through her late husband's belongings and discovers a series of mysterious secrets that Owen was hiding. Now I'm gonna start things off with probably the biggest thing that stuck out to me with this film, and that was Rebecca Hall's performance as Beth. She is phenomenal as the lead of this film and is easily the driving force of the movie. She just eats up every single scene that she's in with ease and gives us a well-rounded, three-dimensional character that we really get to know. Her performance as someone who has just lost their husband isn't just somebody who's sad and depressed. Beth has this blunt honesty about herself, and she's extremely open to talking to people in the film about what she's going through. And the way that she talks about it makes for some really uncomfortable and yet unexpectedly funny scenes throughout the movie. It's clear that she's going through a very complicated grieving process, and not just with the loss of her husband, but also with these mysterious dark secrets that Owen was hiding that she's beginning to uncover. David Bruckner also shines in this film as the director, as he gives us this extremely good sense of dread and tension that just builds throughout the movie. There are some very unsettling images that are shown to the viewer that have just been stuck in my head since I finished watching this movie. There's also just some straight up impressive camera work too. You'll see things through the perspective of Beth throughout the movie, and you'll share her confusion and not knowing if the things that you're witnessing are real or just impressive illusions being pulled off by Bruckner. There's also a couple of very frightening moments in the film that really got to me when these nighttime events started to happen. It's super interesting to me though, because I would classify a lot of these moments as jump scares, and I've always been very vocal about how much I don't like jump scares. I usually just find them lazy and cheap. Like, of course if something jumps out at me at an extremely high volume, I'm gonna get freaked out. But the ones that happen in this movie do have a satisfaction to them, because while they do follow the standard recipe of a jump scare, they also have some very chilling imagery that happens afterwards to drag out the tension past the initial shock. The film is also very well paced in my opinion. It runs close to 2 hours, and even though it's more of a slow burn type of movie, I was very invested in the character of Beth and the puzzle that she was putting together, so I didn't really feel like it dragged at all. I was fully engaged from the beginning to the end. Well, mostly. And that brings me to the part of the movie, however, that I wasn't completely sold on, and that's how the mystery itself all wraps up by the end. I'm gonna keep this review spoiler free, but at the end of the film, I just felt very unsatisfied with what we were given after following Beth on this investigation the whole time. And I think this kind of leads to an entirely different discussion about horror films, which is ambiguity. Personally, and just in my opinion, I think that leaving things ambiguous in a horror movie can be extremely well done in certain cases. Sometimes over-explaining things can lead a film to not being as scary anymore if the answer isn't well crafted enough. This film does give us an answer for what we were witnessing the whole time, but it's just glossed over so quickly that it's easy to just miss entirely. For example, there's moments in the movie where we're given explanations for what some of the things are that Beth is finding, but they're given to us in the form of small notes written on pieces of paper. And they're shown on screen so fast that you may not even get a chance to catch them or to even finish reading them. And then these things are barely brought up again, but they still remain an integral part of the mystery as a whole. And this kind of stuff happens pretty consistently in this movie. Something that's extremely important to the larger picture may only be brought up once, and extremely briefly at that. But it'll still be an important piece of the puzzle that's necessary for seeing the whole picture at the end. And I'm not saying that I just needed a character to show up and explain the whole thing to me through exposition either. But if you decided that you do want an answer to be present in the film and don't want to leave the whole thing ambiguous, then you need to commit a little bit more time to let the audience connect the dots to make the ending fully satisfying. Now, I feel like the writers wanted to leave things open to interpretation to a certain extent because it's clear that the whole thing can act as an allegory for grief or depression. But the problem for me was that they didn't commit fully either way. For me, it's either leave the whole thing ambiguous so it's entirely an allegory, or go all in on the mythology of what's going on here. This movie tried to walk a fine line of doing both, and I think because of that, it just didn't stick the landing. This is all just a very personal feeling that I have on the film though, and I recognize that not everyone's gonna share my opinion on this. So I want to encourage you to go see the movie for yourself and form your own thoughts on the ending. Because I do feel like this movie has the potential to gather a strong cult following. I've already read so many theories online of what was actually going on in the film, and they all have the potential to be correct in their own way, and that's something that's super fun for movies. So don't get me wrong, besides my thoughts on the ending, I did have a really good time watching The Night House. I was definitely stressed out at certain points, and that was exactly what the filmmakers were going for. Things get incredibly tense, and there's some really haunting imagery that's shown throughout the film as well. I also want want to commend this movie for being very original. This was a really unique concept and had so many elements that I'd never seen before in a horror movie, and that's the kind of thing I love in this genre. And of course, Rebecca Hall delivers a powerhouse performance as the lead of this film, which is worth the price of admission on its own. Her acting just got me so invested in her circumstances and the investigation that was going on. The mystery itself is also extremely compelling and delivers some shocking revelations the further that Beth goes down the rabbit hole. I just wish that the movie wrapped up in a way that was more satisfying for me personally. Like, if the writers decided that they wanted to have a concrete answer to it all, then they should have better communicated it to us from all the clues that we got throughout the film. So with that said, in the end, I'm gonna give The Night House a B+. But that's just my opinion, and I want to know yours, so let me know in the comments. What did you think of the film? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Was there something that I didn't bring up that you particularly liked or disliked? What did you think of the ending? But try to keep it spoiler-free for the people who didn't watch. So let me know in the comments, I'll reply, and we'll have a discussion about it. And also, while you're down there, if you could do me one huge favor and like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, that would help me out so much with getting my videos out to a bigger audience. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I'm Murdock, and I'll catch you next time.